Uh, Reminding everyone that this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the Northern Lehigh School District Media YouTube channel. All votes this evening will be roll call. I remind each member when you're not speaking to keep your mic off, but during the roll call, please acknowledge your name as if you are making a motion or a second, because we will need to know who is making the motion and the second, and of course, it will all be done through the call. We're going to dispense with the pledge to the flag if that's not an objection, and I will go into roll call. Madam Secretary.
Mr. Fedorcha, I believe that we're still required to actually do the pledge.
Okay. Well, then maybe next time we can do it. Maybe Eric can put a flag up for us. No, anyway, I'm just kidding. All right.
And
Everyone, please rise and follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
The
America.
United States of America.
And justice.
Indivisible, under God, and justice for all.
Liberty and justice for all.
Okay, now we will go into roll call, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Fedorcha. Mr. Disler?
Here.
Mr. Fedorcha?
Here.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Ms. Heckman?
Here.
Ms. Husak? Present. Mr. Keegan?
Here.
Mr. Kern?
Here.
Ms. Culp? Ms. Culp?
I know she's here, but Donna, on mute, please.
Ms. Martineau? Here. All right, Mr. Fedorcha, we do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Public comments, as always, will be restricted to those items on the agenda. If there is anyone who we will be hearing from that has public questions, I will accept them at the end of the meeting. I'm now going to go into a roll call vote for a suspension of the rules, since that we are on a different timing here with everyone being on a roll on the teleconference. I will need a motion to approve to suspend rule 006.1. Do I have a motion?
So moved. This is Michelle Martineau.
Do I have a second?
This is Robin
Second.
Disler. I second.
Thank
Any
you.
questions? All those in favor? We're going
I'll
to
do the roll call, Mr. Fedorcha.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Disler?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
No.
Ms. Heckman?
Yes.
Ms. Husak? Yes. Mr. Keegan?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Ms. Culp? Ms. Martineau?
Yes.
Just for a second, Donna Culp is on the phone, so if somebody, is it *6, Eric, that she needs? There she goes. All right.
Yep.
Yes, *6.
Donna, we're voting on suspension of the rule.
I agree.
Okay,
Thank you.
moving on.
Motion passed, Mr. Fedorcha.
Thank you very much. Moving on to I need now, again, a motion to approve the minutes of March 9th, 2020. Do I have a motion to do so? I'm sorry?
Robin here. Yes.
No, who's making the motion?
Robin Disler here. to
Thank you.
approve.
Do I have a second? Do I have a-
Second, Bob Kern.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Disler,
This is in favor.
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Heckman,
Yes.
Ms. Husak, yes. Mr. Keegan,
Yes.
Mr. Kern,
Yes.
Ms. Culp,
Star six.
Ms. Martineau, Mrs. Martineau, yes. Did Donna drop off?
No.
Nope, she's still on there. Ms. Culp,
Donna, are you, yes? Are you voting yes on the minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Special board reports. Gail? Intermediate unit?
Thank you, Mr. Fedorcha. We did have our Carbon Lehigh Intermediate Unit in March. We also had it via Zoom meeting, so we are continuing through our meetings. Our next meeting will be next Monday evening, beginning at 6:30 via Zoom again. So if anybody wants to schedule in, you're welcome to go on to the IU website to do that. On this month's board agenda, and what we'll have a roll call for is for the CLIU Facilities Plan Committee report. So that is something that has been presented to the board for approval again for this year, for the 2020-21 school year. So we will see that later in the board. That's all I have, Mr. Fedorcha. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lehigh Technical Institute, we have been meeting also remotely. It's been quite an interesting thing with 21 board members and the board, but we've been moving along. They are doing the same thing we are doing with their students as much as they can. Being vocational is not as easy, but we are moving on and we're looking forward to getting back to school as soon as we can, but it obviously is not going to be until September. That's all I have. Legislative, Mrs. Heckman.
There's no formal update this evening. Everything has pretty much come to a screeching COVID halt. So I think that we'll get some relevant updates in Matt's section and in Dr. Stoker's section based on what the state is doing. I thought it would be best to leave it up to them to explain.
Any questions? Thank you. Mr. Green, L-Tri-C?
We canceled our last meeting. We're going virtual for the next one in our committee meetings. The college, of course, is shut down. Hopefully we'll open in fall. The financial ramifications, way too soon to tell. So that's about it. So.
Okay, thank you, sir. The committee reports and meetings, the minutes are there for you in your attachments. Please peruse them. If there's any questions, just ask the person who is in charge of those meetings. Moving on, student representative, I believe we have one on board here.
Yes,
Hey,
hello.
Did I see you here? There we are.
Both of us are here. Aiden, is it okay if I go first?
Sure thing. Go ahead.
Okay. So just a quick update in what it's like for a student. Although these times are uncertain for all of us, I'm very happy with the way that everything's been taken care of. My mother is not an essential worker, and she was very worried about eating the lunches that the school provided for me. My whole family has been getting the free grab-and-go lunches and they've really helped us out, and they're really good. I know a lot of my friends had left some school supplies at school as they were not expecting to be out for the remainder of the school year, so it was nice to have the ability to get all that from the school on those allotted dates. It might be a little bit hard for me to finish my Fine Arts 2 studies without art supplies, but we've been given work that needs no clay, paint, or fancy pens. I was really worried about my AP European History exam and how that would play out, but luckily the College Board came up with a solution that is well good to that as well. And it's probably a solution that will result in a higher grade for me as well. So I'm very okay with that. Overall, I can't say I'm overly excited to have to finish my senior year online, but I understand why it has to happen. And I'm very happy with how everything has been handled. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, moving on then to Adrian.
Hello, everyone. An update from me. Obviously, this whole situation has been really hard on everyone, and especially from a student's perspective. It's really been difficult not being in class every day with the immediate help of our teachers and everything. But I would like to commend all the teachers. They've been so gracious with how they've reached out to us, and every day they've been able to just give us the assignments that we need to do, and I'm so grateful for what they've done. Also, Madison had mentioned the grab and go lunches. It's extremely helpful to never have to worry about getting a meal. So I'm extremely grateful for the school for that. And looking on the bright side, we obviously have a lot more time in the way that the online assignments work. We can kind of work around our own schedule. So that's obviously very helpful to do. And so I feel like the best thing for us students to do, and I've been talking to a lot of my friends, is just kind of make the most of the current situation we're in and get through it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, both of you, for coming on. I really appreciate it. Any questions for our students? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to, I didn't notice, Keith Stroll, are you on?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, I don't have anything to report tonight other than, I will enjoy when we'll be able to be back in the boardroom. I can see all your smiling faces, and I won't be doing this on the phone in my basement. So that's about all I have.
Thank you, Keith, and thank you. Business managers report, Mrs. Alvarez and Mrs. Franz.
The only thing I have this evening is the resolution for the charter school funding reform, which is on tonight's agenda. We're asking that you approve the resolution. It is to let our representatives know that they need to address the unfair funding for charter schools at this point in time, especially with any kind of ramifications that are going to come from this COVID-19. They need to address this and get the fair funding on this. So if you would approve that tonight, it would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Ms. Molitaris.
I don't have anything. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions? Moving on then to our assistant superintendent's report, Dr. Stoker.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to give a grant update with some of our grants that we have in progress. Our PCCD grants we have in progress. We've been awarded those, and prior to the shutdown, we were able to start accomplishing some of the projects that we have written into the grant. So anything that is able to be done at this point for any of those companies that have a waiver or are able to continue working, we are continuing some of those projects. It currently expires in February of 2022, so we still have a lot of time to accomplish all of that work that is written into that grant. The Teacher in the Workplace grant, I emailed PDE on that one because we have written into that grant that we're going to have teachers and students go out to visit businesses, that we're going to have career fairs, career caravans, a lot of things that have to do face-to-face. And during these times, we really can't do that. So we are still waiting for some information and some direction on that grant. That's currently set to expire in August of 2020. With regard to the PA Smart Grant, that's the grant that we have for 6 of our teachers across the district from K through 12 to receive professional development related to computer science, and then able to purchase technology computer programs or devices for students to use in those classrooms. Most of our teachers have completed their professional development. We do have some teachers that were in a series of professional development that are finishing. And also some teachers that did not have a chance to begin their professional development yet. So that grant was actually set to conclude on June 30th. They have expanded that through December 31st, so that will go through the end of the year. That will give us ample time to use some of those monies, get professional development, and then we're also looking at with that grant writing the computer science curriculum from K through 12. with our technology teachers. Also recently, there was an emergency grant that the Pennsylvania Department of Education put out. It's called the Continuity of Education Equity Grant, or CEEG. That grant opened on April 6th and closed on April 10th. It was a very short time frame to get that completed. There were 2 grants within that application. There's a systemic grant. If we had more than 10% of our students that could not participate in the continuity of education plan that districts have created, we did not qualify for that, but we did qualify for the student subgroup. In that particular part of the grant, we had to have at least 5% of our students in a particular subgroup, like special education, English learners, or various races, things of that nature, that could not participate. We did qualify for that grant in some of those particular subgroups. In order for a subgroup to qualify, you also had to have at least 20 students in that subgroup. But our technology department did a very nice job sending out a survey. We got some results from that survey, and we were able to use that information to apply for that grant. The base for that grant was $5,000. And then any student that we had that qualified over that, within those percentages, it was $50 per student above that. So we were able to apply for a grant for $5,850. And we were looking to use that grant to purchase more Khajiits so that any of our students who are experiencing connectivity issues, that we can help to remove that barrier so they can continue with their education through the rest of this year. That grant will be awarded on April 17th, so we're just waiting to hear back on that grant. Pennsylvania Department of Education also put out graduation guidance. We've had some questions recently about what that may look like and what requirements have to be met in order for graduation. So can seniors graduate at the end of the 1920 school year? Yes, they can. And that's similar to what it would be during a normal year, that they have to pass the required classes, earn enough credits, and then if they're a student who has an IEP, they would have to graduate or can graduate on IEP goals. Also, students who are in the CTC, the NOCTI and NIMS exams for CTC students were waived for this year, so they are still permitted to graduate, not having those exams that they typically need in order to move forward. Class rank and GPA are essentially local decisions. We had a meeting today, the high school administration, school counselors, and myself to further discuss and develop a plan as to what that may look like. We had some missing information, for instance, what LCTI was doing. So we did get some guidance from what they're doing with their students, and now can incorporate that into our plan. So that'll be forthcoming. We'll be communicating that out very shortly. We can also note on our transcripts, if we choose to, that there was a pandemic happening during these times. So if students are moving to college, or decide to down the road apply to a college in the future, or military, or any of those, potentially a job, where they may look at transcripts, we can actually note on our transcripts, if we would like to, that there was unusual circumstances happening during this time. That may be why you see grades or pass fail, or something different than what would typically be seen on our transcripts. High school graduation is permitted to be held virtually. Right now, if we were to hold a large event, we can't have more than 10 people under the current guidance. So we can't have a graduation ceremony currently, but the guidance that we have from PDE does permit either a virtual graduation or another get-together of some sort to graduate students later on once the ban is lifted. Again, that's something we're trying to determine what that may look like. This guidance also applies to our home education students, our Bulldog Academy students, LCTI students, students that were outplaced previously. So this is applicable to any of the students that we currently have in our district. With regard to policy, COVID-19 pandemic has forced us to change the way that we operate schools. This in turn has forced laws and policies to change to fit our current times. For example, in order for Pennsylvania Department of Education to waive state testing for this year, the PSSAs, the Keystones, and the PASA, they had to apply for a waiver from the federal government. At the local level, we are being told to review our policies to determine if they fit our current circumstances as well. If they don't, we can either suspend those policies, very similarly to what we did with 006.1 this evening, through a board motion, or we can draft new language that fits the policy, so that moving forward it fits current times and potentially future times as well. So we have that option to review those policies and then make some decisions from there. So that's what we're doing right now. We're continuing to look at those policies that may be impacted and come up with a plan, and then bring that plan through our Education Policy Committee, and then eventually to the board if a policy needs to be suspended or if it needs to be rewritten. We're using guidance from Pennsylvania Department of Education, from the governor's office, and also through PSBA, through their legal team that typically gives us guidance to rewrite policy. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, moving on to our superintendent's report, Mr. Link.
Thank you, Mr. Fedorcha. As Dr. Stoker noted in her report, the governor and Secretary of Education have mandated the closure of schools for the remainder of this academic year. However, Northern Lehigh was prepared for that scenario, and we have implemented our continuity of education plan. The Monday before spring break was the first day of mandated participation in our continuity of education. So we transitioned out of review and enrichment and into planned instruction. We re-looked at the participation data for that over the weekend and as recently as this morning. And I'm happy to report that all of our schools' participation rates, all 4 schools, was at 95% or higher for the first 3 days, that short week. That's corrected data. Prior to break, it looked like our middle school and high school was coming in at about 85%. We re-looked at that attendance / participation grade, and it's now up at 95% or above at each school building, which we are very proud of for our student body and for our teachers for hitting that. That's some of the highest participation rates that I've seen published so far. So congratulations to all of our students and staff. Also, I would like to make some public thank yous to certain community groups and businesses that have been supporting us through the mandated school shutdowns. Kmart, Weiss, and Giant have all donated just boxes of plastic bags for us to put our grab and go meals in. It doesn't seem like a big issue until you need them. And boy, do we need them. We're averaging about 500 lunches a day. We're very appreciative of that. The paper bags that we were using do not hold up that well. So we're grateful for the plastic bags, which are much more sturdy. Lehigh Engineering, another local company, donated lumber to us so we can make the signs coming down the middle school driveway. They've been holding up pretty well in the weather, and I know our maintenance crews, sets them back up each morning if the wind blows them over. And we will be making some new signs to hang on them just to kind of keep them fresh as we go through the school closures. So thank you to Lehigh Engineering. Also, thank you to the Northern Lehigh Education Foundation, who has made a very generous donation of $1,000 for us to keep our Backpack Buddies program going. This is a program that's different than the grab and go meals, which we offer on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Backpack Buddies program was something that we started before the school closures. And this is to increase meal security for some of our neediest families in the district over the weekends or even like over spring break. We're able to continue to supply them with food over the longer gaps in between the meals that are offered in the grab and go. Those meals are being funded through the U.S. Department of Agriculture. I'd also like to thank Mr. Joseph Franzone and his family. This is a very generous community member who one day came through and contacted Mrs. Boddick, our food services director, and was so grateful for what the school is doing to support the community that he donated $1,000 to also help with the Backpack Buddies program. So as a whole, our community is really stepping up and helping the school district and helping each other. That's one of the many reasons that I love working in Northern Lehigh School District. Mr. Fedorcha, that concludes my update for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Link. And I really want to again thank all of the people who are helping with that program. I don't even know how much time they spent on it, but I do know they are spending lots of time and they're doing a fantastic job for our children. Any other comments?
Can you draft a letter to that gentleman and his family who donated the money on behalf of the board and the administration or the staff or whatever, whoever you want to have it come from, but you know, something in writing to him, I think might be appropriate.
Yes, we're actually going to do that for all the donors, because every little thing, whether it's an item or a monetary donation, is greatly appreciated. So yes, we will, Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Lincoln. Thank you, Mr. Green. Okay, any other things? Moving on, we did have an emergency executive session held on March 18th at 6 p.m. to discuss personnel issues. We had an executive session this evening prior to our meeting at 6:30. I will now move into the personnel. I will take a motion to approve the personnel items A and B. Roll, please. But first, do I have a motion to approve?
Here. Mr. Fedorcha, it's Don, I say here.
Do I have a second?
Michelle Heckman, second.
Okay, any questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Disler?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Heckman?
Yes.
Ms. Husak? Yes. Mr. Keegan?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Ms. Culp?
Yes.
Ms. Martineau?
Yes.
Motion passed, Mr. Fedorcha.
Thank you.
And Mr. Fedorcha, if I may quickly, I would just like to take a minute to recognize and thank and congratulate Mrs. Hufflick and Mrs. Jones for their service to our students and families in Northern Lehigh. Together, they gave a combined 60 years to Northern Lehigh School District and our students. They will be deeply missed, and we wish them well in their future endeavors. Thank you, Mr. Fedorcha.
I concur that, and I hopefully we'll be able to at least see them sometime before, and congratulate them and thank them publicly. Okay, moving on. I will take a motion now to approve the policy items A through C. Do I have a motion?
Michelle Martin.
Second by Matt.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Disler?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Heckman?
Yes.
Ms. Husak? Yes. Mr. Keegan?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Ms. Culp?
Yes.
Ms. Martineau? Ms. Martineau?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passed, Mr. Fedorcha.
Thank you very much. There are no conferences to approve, so we'll move on to curriculum and instruction. I will accept a motion to approve the curriculum and instruction items A through D. Roll call, please.
You need a motion first.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, before even that, does anybody have any questions? I know there was a lot there, and I do apologize. I'm trying to follow my agenda on my pad here, but are there any questions first? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion, please? May I have a motion?
Robin Disler, here.
Do I have a second?
Michelle Martineau. Michelle Martineau seconded.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
No, I'll do roll call.
Roll call.
Hold on, roll call.
Yes, we're gonna get together here. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. Roll call, please.
Mr. Disler? Mr. Disler?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Heckman?
Yes.
Ms. Husak? Yes. Mr. Keegan?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Ms. Culp?
Yes.
Ms. Martineau?
Yes.
Motion passed, Mr. Fedorcha.
Thank you. Moving on, there is no old business. New business, to approve the new business items, which is the resolution supporting charter school funding reform. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Matt?
Do I have a second?
Robin, second.
Questions? All those in favor? Roll call,
Nope.
please.
Roll call. Mr. Disler?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Heckman?
Yes.
Ms. Husak? Yes. Mr. Keegan?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Ms. Culp?
Yes.
Ms. Martineau?
Yes.
Motion passed, Mr. Fedorcha.
Thank you very much. Financial motion to approve items A and B. May I have a motion to approve? May I have a motion?
Robin,
Michelle
yes.
Heckman, so moved.
Okay. Robin, yes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Disler?
Yes.
Mr. Green? I'm sorry, Mr. Green?
Yes. Yes. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Ms. Heckman?
Yes.
Ms. Husak? Yes. Mr. Keegan?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Ms. Culp?
Yes.
Ms. Martineau?
Yes.
Motion passed, Mr. Fedorcha.
Thank you very much. Legal? May I have a motion for the expulsion hearing waiver? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Matt.
Do I have a second?
Seconded, Michelle Martineau.
Are there any questions on this? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Disler?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Heckman?
Yes.
Ms. Husak? Yes. Mr. Keegan?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Ms. Culp?
Yes.
Ms. Martineau?
Yes.
Mr. Fedorcha?
Yes,
Motion passed, Mr. Fedorcha.
thank you very much. Is there any correspondence, Ms. Hudek?
No.
Okay, thank you. Information, minutes from the Lehigh Intermediate Unit is there for you. I'm not sure how I do this, if there's anybody, recognition of guests, anyone want to address the board? If there is people coming in, will we be notified of that later on, or how's that going to work?
Mr. Fedorcha, I am monitoring our YouTube channel, and we do not have any questions at this time.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, then at this point, I will accept a motion to adjourn. But before I do that, I do want to thank you all for being with us tonight. This is very difficult, I'm sure, for all of us to try to make sure that we're following everything correctly and so forth. This is a whole different game for us. And I do want to thank you all for being here. And I want to thank our staff for everything they have been doing. And I know they are doing an effortless job. And I hope everyone stays safe, stays well, stay home. Thank you.
I think this is great, Mr. Fedorcha. This is the first time I ever had a glass of wine at a school board meeting. So I'm really
I
happy.
thought that might not be a good
I was
idea.
only kidding. I was only kidding. It was grape juice.
Anyway, again, thank you, everybody. And that's it. So we can sign off.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Good night, everybody. Good night, everyone.
We need a motion.
Oh.
Robin here.
Do we have a second?
Michelle Second, Bob.
Okay. Roll call.
Robin here.
Mr. Disler, Mr. Green, Mr. Heckman, Mr. Husak,
Here.
Sounds like they all got them. I think everybody left. Yeah.
I think,
Smart now. Ms. Culp, Mr. Kern.
Here.
Yeah, Mr. Markman. You got a quorum. You're good. Motion passed.
thank you, everyone. Again, stay safe, everyone. Good night.
You too.
Thank you.